Hello, this is Todd Luck, and this is a review of Tarzan, Lord of the Louisiana Jungle. So this is a curiously named documentary, but what it's about is it's a documentary about the making of the very first Tarzan movie that was shot in Louisiana. And the very first Tarzan movie is, of course, Tarzan of the Apes, which was a silent movie shot in 1918 starring Elmo Lincoln. And so, how do you do a documentary about a 100-year-old movie? Or, well, it was almost 100 years. This was actually made in 2012, but still, that's a very long time. And so, there's not exactly a lot of archival footage, of behind the scenes stuff, but they have found an extraordinary amount of stuff. And it is an actually really good documentary. But first, I want to tell you what you're going to get with this DVD, because there's some special features on here. So along with the hour and 14-minute documentary, you're also getting, for special features, an interview with George McWhorter, that's him right there, who is the curator, or was the curator, of the Edgar Rice Burroughs collection at the University of Louisville. And this is the biggest collection of Burroughs's work and paraphernalia anywhere in the world. And so this guy was a super fan of Burroughs, and he talks about how that collection came to be, and we get a lot of his background. And he passed away since they did this interview, and so this is a very, very fitting tribute to someone who was a huge, huge fan and a big figure in the Burroughs fan community. They also made all of the people who appeared in the documentary do a Tarzan yell. And this even included some people who didn't make it in the documentary, like Thomas Yeats. You get to hear him do a couple different Tarzan yells. Some people were smart. They had the good sense to actually opt to do a silent movie yell, which of course you can't hear. But most of them, yeah, they forced them to do the yell, and it's at times hilarious. And then there's a tourist video for the region that the documentary was shot in, and also a tourist video for the zoo that they interviewed someone from. And so most likely those last two things were basically put on there as a bit of bartering. You appear in our documentary and we'll put in your little video advertisement in the special features. I know how that works. It's fine. They're actually kind of interesting videos. But the biggest special feature on this thing is that it comes with a second disc that has the full movie of Tarzan of the Apes. And so not only do you get a documentary about the making of that movie, you get the movie itself, which is really awesome. So it's an hour-long silent movie. It's been recut. This is a brand new cut of it with new music. And so even if you've seen it before, this is a new way to experience it. So I thought that was really, really cool that they included that. One odd mix-up is that they mislabeled the discs on mine. So the second disc that says it's the Tarzan of the Apes movie is actually the documentary and special features. And what it says is the first disc with the documentary and the special features is actually the movie Tarzan of the Apes. It's a little weird that they did that mix up, but you'll figure it out quick. So there's a lot of really interesting stuff in this documentary. It's not just one movie. It talks about Edgar Rice Burroughs' life. It talks about, what was going on at the time, gives you some historical context. You get to see the archives at the University of Louisville filled with all kinds of Burroughs books and first editions and toys and all of that. You get interviews with Burroughs's descendants, who I think are all named after characters in his novels, including Deja Burroughs. And they talk to the folks at Edgar Rice Burroughs Incorporated, and we even get to see the contract that they make movie studios sign about the things they can't have Tarzan do in a movie, what he cannot do on the big screen. And that's worth pausing on, because that's some interesting reading right there. But of course, most of the documentary is devoted to the making of Tarzan of the Apes. And so they go to each of the locations that it was shot at, and they talk to the natives of Louisiana about, the local legends, about the monkeys that got left behind, things like that. They go over the biographies of all the different actors. I learned Enid Markey, the first Jane, actually starred as Gomer Pyle's grandmother in an episode of Andy Griffith. So does that make Gomer Pyle Tarzan's grandson? They have an interview with Elmo Lincoln's daughter in here. They have a lot of different photos from the making of it, which I'm just amazed that they were able to find, but I'm so glad that they're in here. There's so many facts that I never knew about in here. There's stuff about how they made the ape costumes, about the acrobats who were in the ape costumes. They talk about why the movie doesn't cover the entire novel, right? If you watch my review of the silent film Tarzan of the Apes, you know that it goes 3/4 of the way through the novel. And the reason why they didn't do the whole thing is they wanted to do that final scene in the novel with the forest fire, right? The big climactic scene where Tarzan rescues Jane in America. But California did not want to let them do a fire scene, right? They were afraid that the forest fire would get out of control, and it's California. So since they couldn't do that scene, they just decided to end it with a scene in Africa. However, the ending that was originally released was not the same ending that we see in versions of it we're watching now. What they said was that the original scene was just Tarzan and Jane in the jungle. What we have now is a scene where Tarzan and Jane return to the cabin, right? And that's how the movie ends for us. And that extra scene that was added, according to this documentary, is actually from the lost movie Romance of Tarzan, which was the sequel to Tarzan of the Apes. But that's been lost to time. But apparently the opening scene at the cabin was cut and put onto the end of Tarzan of the Apes. And so that's actually footage of Romance of Tarzan. And so there's just a lot of fascinating stuff like that in here. It's a great documentary. I don't necessarily agree with every single bit of analysis in here, but having different points of view in a documentary is a good thing. And it's just a lot of really interesting stuff. However, do be warned that they do discuss blackface. This movie didn't have it in there, but it was a common practice at the time. And so they illustrate that by showing you an intentionally offensive clip of blackface. And there's also some footage from Birth of a Nation, because Elmo Lincoln claimed he had like a ton of different uncredited roles in that movie. And so they do show some footage from that. So just be aware of that, especially if you're watching it with children. So, but it is an excellent, excellent documentary, and I do definitely recommend. This is only $20 on EdgarRiceBurroughs.com. You can get it from their online shop, and it is well worth getting. All right, that's it. Like and subscribe for more videos. And before I go, I should do my Tarzan yell. See, it's not that hard to do an absolutely perfect Tarzan yell. It's not like I had any help at all. See ya.